Hey everyone, welcome back. Take a quick look at the smartphone you probably have sitting right next to you, or, you might literally be holding it in your hands right now. It's just a sleek piece of glass and metal, right? Well, the history of how we actually got to that little device is a completely fascinating story of pure human resourcefulness. Okay, let's dive into this because the contrast here is just massive. Today, you carry a literal supercomputer in your pocket. It can connect you to anyone on the planet in a fraction of a second. But rewind just 250 years, saying a simple hi to a friend in another town meant 3 grueling days on the back of a horse. Over the next 8 to 10 minutes, we are going to explore 250 years of absolute jugaad. That resourceful, scrappy, figure-it-out problem solving. We'll see how that raw spirit evolved into total technological dominance. So, here is our time machine itinerary for today. We'll start in the 1770s with the age of jugaad. Then to the 1800s, which got easier and louder. Then the 1900s, conquering the sky and the road. The mid-20th century brings us rockets and radios. And finally, the 1990s sparks the digital revolution. All right, stop number 1 on our trip. The 1770s, the age of jugaad. When we think of the Founding Fathers, we usually just picture these formal politicians in powdered wigs writing up the Constitution. But honestly, many of them, especially Benjamin Franklin, were essentially rogue, crazy scientists. Picture this. There's a massive storm, lightning is crashing everywhere, and Franklin is just outside flying a kite. His friend is probably yelling, "Ben, what are you doing, man? You're gonna get struck." And then, zap, Franklin takes a shock, turns around, and triumphantly yells back, "That was the plan, boss! Look, the lightning rod is invented!" He literally used himself as a test dummy to invent a device that saved countless houses from burning to the ground. That is the absolute ultimate jugaad. But Franklin didn't just stop at catching electricity from the sky. As he got older, his eyesight started to blur, right? And he was just totally tired of swapping between 2 different pairs of glasses. So, what does he do? He simply invents bifocals so he could see clearly near and far. He truly established the blueprint for being the original American innovator. Just identifying a really annoying everyday problem and inventing a totally new practical solution. Let's move to and see how this builds in our next era, Section 2. The 1800s, easier and louder. By the early 19th century, America realized something crucial. If they wanted to become a great expanding nation, they had to move fast. Life needed to become easier, and things were about to get a whole lot louder. In the early 1800s, Eli Whitney's cotton gin completely revolutionized the speed of agriculture. But the mind-blowing game-changer actually came in the mid-1800s. See, sending a message from New York to London used to mean putting a physical letter on a ship and waiting for months. Then Samuel Morse stepped onto the scene with the telegraph, and literally everything shifted. Imagine a frantic businessman running up to Morse in a total panic. "My ship just sank. I have to tell everyone immediately." And Morse just sits there, completely unbothered, calmly tapping a little key. ... The businessman looks at him, totally bewildered, asking what on earth he's doing. Morse casually looks up and says, "I just told New York that your ship went down." The businessman asks if it's magic, and Morse just smirks. "It's not magic, bro. It's Morse code. Now pay me." That right there was the birth of instant messaging. It completely changed human connection. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the number 1000. As the 1800s progressed, it became this massive race to capture light. Everyone was trying, but Thomas Edison finally pulled off what seemed impossible, creating a light bulb that actually lasted. Now, people love to say that Edison failed 1,000 times before he got it right, but Edison famously and kind of stubbornly rejected that idea. He basically said, "No, I didn't fail. I successfully found 1,000 ways that didn't work." It's exactly that relentless persistence that defined the whole era. Moving on to Section 3, the 1900s, the sky and the road. As the turn of the 20th century hit, humanity essentially decided that the ground just wasn't enough anymore. Human speed was about to drastically increase. It all starts in 1903 on a super windy beach in North Carolina with 2 bicycle shop brothers and the number 12. The Wright Brothers' very first successful powered flight lasted exactly 12 seconds. Just think about how incredibly quick 12 seconds actually is. It really proves that amazingly small, seemingly insignificant starts can lead to massive global changes. You can just picture a skeptical spectator standing on that beach, watching that tiny short hop and laughing. Hey, what are these bicycle shop guys even doing? Being in the air for 12 seconds isn't flying. And Wilbur Wright, looking at this rickety wooden glider, turning to the guy and saying, "Just wait, buddy. Wait 100 years, and you'll be sitting in this exact thing, sipping a drink, going to Dubai."
And, I mean, he was absolutely right. That brief 12-second moment directly connects to your modern ability to hop on an international flight without even giving it a second thought.
But while the Wright brothers were looking way up in the sky, Henry Ford was looking straight ahead down the road. Now, Ford didn't invent the automobile, but what he did was arguably much more impactful. He looked at cars, which at the time were these exclusive, ridiculously expensive toys for the ultra-rich, and he decided, hey, my own factory workers should be able to afford to drive these. By breaking down car assembly into super simple tasks and moving the product along a continuous line, he completely slashed costs and cranked out the Model T. He single-handedly turned America into a nation on wheels. Next up, Section 4, the mid-20th century, rockets and radios. And this brilliantly illustrates how wartime technology and global competition accidentally birthed our modern household conveniences. Going into the post-World War II era, it was like the floodgates of human innovation were just blown wide open. A scientist was working on military radar technology, testing these things called magnetrons, when he suddenly noticed that the chocolate bar he had in his pocket had completely melted. Realizing that the radar waves were creating heat out of nowhere, he essentially gave us the microwave, or, let's be honest, what should probably be known as the ultimate popcorn maker. But the mid-20th century wasn't just about cool kitchen appliances, right? It was defined by the intense space race mentality. In 1957, Russia launched Sputnik, the very first artificial satellite, and it sent absolute shockwaves across the globe. America's response? It was the ultimate hold my coffee moment. They didn't just want to match a satellite in orbit. They decided to shoot all the way for the moon. And in 1969, using pure, brilliant rocket science and the absolute crazy ambition of NASA, Neil Armstrong took those historic steps on the lunar surface. Which brings us to Section 5, the 1990s to today, the digital revolution. Now, you might be wondering, where does our beloved internet fit into all of this history? Well, it actually started really quietly in the background during the 1960s with something called ARPANET. This was an experimental, highly technical network meant purely for researchers. But this relatively obscure project was actually the crucial digital seed. It eventually sprouted, branched out, and blossomed into the incredibly complex World Wide Web that we rely on for basically everything today. The real magic of the digital revolution, though, was the incredible shrinking computer. We literally went from gigantic, clunky machines that needed entire air-conditioned rooms just to function, all the way down to the desktop PCs championed by visionaries like Steve Jobs and Bill Gates. They put the immense power of computing right onto our desks. And then, the ultimate leap, they put it in our pockets. When the 2007 iPhone was released, it completely changed the global interface. It fundamentally altered how we touch, interact with, and consume information forever. So, the crucial point is this. In a span of just 250 years, humanity went from huddling around lighting candles and flying kites in thunderstorms to running high-speed satellite internet across the globe and legitimately talking about settling on Mars. These inventions aren't just cool gadgets or random pieces of wire and glass. They are hard, tangible proof of what happens when human beings simply refuse to accept the word impossible. That brings us to the end of our explainer today, but I want to leave you with a question to really spark a debate. Which American invention is most important to your daily life right now, air conditioning or the internet? It is a genuinely tough choice when you think about surviving a scorching summer without AC. Let me know your choice down in the comments. If you enjoyed this journey, hit that subscribe button to keep your mind sharp, and definitely let me know what topic you want me to break down in our next explainer. Until then, keep asking questions and stay curious.